Hey guys, Volcano the Bat here. So today I'm going to be playing a bit of Rise of a Ninja. For a while now, I've always wondered if it's possible to actually free roam around in the nighttime version of the Leaf Village. With the assistance of modding, I have actually managed to achieve this, but about a year ago I actually managed to pull off a glitch that allowed me to break a scripted event. Specifically, I broke out of bounds and pretty much could free roam around the forest areas, and with a bit of trial and error I actually did manage to make it all the way back to the village. And that's pretty much what this video is going to be, a bit of a tutorial to actually break out of the scripted event in order to free roam around the night village. So you'll pretty much want to do everything normally, start up the game, steal the scroll, do the minigame ninja race, and once you defeat Mizuki before you actually talk to Iruka, you basically want to turn around and jump on the rock to the left here. There's actually a bit of a timing glitch with Naruto's jumping. This also applies to the sprint hop, which I actually did show in a previous video. But if you frame perfect time it right, as you can see, if you jump around where these invisible walls are, this keeps Naruto falling, which is good because if we can frame perfect input a jump on the last frame of the fall, and the collision keeps holding you up so you won't cancel the height that you've gained, you can actually get infinite jumps. Well, at least enough to reach the next part of the forest. Now the first risk, and probably the most important risk of all, you don't want to get too close to the gate if you do pull off this glitch. Believe me, I found this out the hard way. If you get too close, basically the invisible collision that's supposed to respawn you if you're trying to leave, will basically trigger and ultimately respawn you next to Iruka. Now as you've just seen, I have actually managed to break out of bounds. Pretty much the rest is simple. You can free roam around this part of the forest, and you'll notice that the collision is pretty incomplete for this area. I guess it didn't really need to be done for a nighttime version, so in a way it's understandable. Eventually I would like to find a way to actually free roam around the sunset version of the village. This is actually right before the nighttime version, when you're playing as the walking Naruto. This actually makes it a lot more harder to break out of the area. I think the thing that caught my attention the most here was this boulder. In the daytime version, it's actually replaced with a wooden barrier, just like this one. Makes me think that at this point in the game you were actually meant to learn Shadow Clone Jutsu level 2. I don't know if at this point in the game you can actually get Shadow Clones level 2. I mean, even if you could, the way this looks makes it seem like it is essential to complete the next part of the game. But anyway, you can't actually jump over the fence, unfortunately. Thanks to the incomplete collision though, we can clip right through. Now as mentioned, with the risk of actually hitting the invisible trigger that could respawn you, that also does apply here, so you don't want to go too close. If you've made it this far into it, the rest is pretty much easy. Now that we don't have a timed minigame, we can really take in the sights. In terms of differences, there really isn't a lot here. But if you're really familiar with how it looks at daytime, I'm sure you can find a few. I always knew that there were some model scaling differences, but I could swear there's actually more obstacles in the nighttime version compared to day. This is a minor detail, but I did actually notice that the autosave is actually in a different location. Granted, it is right before the gates, but normally it is meant to trigger when you're going through the gates. There actually is a lot of differences here in the village. The most prominent I've noticed is that there's a lot more fences around here. Which, I do understand. They did want to make sure that you can't just free roam around anywhere, at least at this point in the game. But now that we have no time limit, we can go almost anywhere in the village. Since you're not meant to actually have access to the entire village at this point, a lot of geometry is actually missing here, unfortunately. Through modding, just out of curiosity, I wanted to find out if you could actually interact with rails if you got high enough. And even though the models are actually present here in the nighttime version, you sadly can't interact with it, collision and all. I only just noticed this quite recently, but in beta screenshots for this building right here, the rail positioning is a little bit different to the final build. Surprisingly, the nighttime version does actually have this positioning. That also reminds me, can someone tell me just what in the world is this building? We have so many landmarks in the Leaf Village, from the Hokage building to the ramen shop to Naruto's apartment, even miscellaneous locations like the mountainside images, or the hospital or the academy even. The fact that this building is actually highlighted in the map of the game does tell me that this building would have been used for some part of the game originally. I keep thinking that it might be the practice hall, but I'm pretty sure that's actually connected to the academy. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If this were a one-off thing that appeared in only this game, maybe I wouldn't be as interested. But it literally is in the anime, and everywhere I've looked I can never actually get an answer to what this building is or what it does, or for that matter if it's even used in the show. Now, as you can see, unfortunately you can't actually leave the village, which is a real shame because I would have loved to have seen the other foresty areas at night time, but I mean, I guess it does make sense that they didn't actually model outside of the village for those parts. But who knows, maybe through modding someday I'll manage to find a way to achieve this. Anyways, I think for the rest of the video, I think I'll just show you guys the highlights of my recordings. So with that said, thank you guys for watching, hope you all enjoyed, and please let me know if this was useful and it helped you. And yeah, till next time, enjoy the footage, and I'm out for now. Peace. Alright, so I figured it's about time I showed a more updated tutorial on how to get onto the Chunin exam stadium in Konoha. So basically, there is a glitch that you can do with grinding rails, and I'm basically going to try to pull that off now. It's a lot easier with some other rails that don't have like grippable collision like so. But since that's not the case for here, this is going to be a little hard. I mean, once you do pull it off and you get the pattern right, then the rest is pretty much easy as long as you don't get the wrong angle with your walking pattern. Because if you do that, it will trigger the grinding rail. So yeah, see what I mean? It's a bit tricky at first for the first few steps, but you know, once you're actually a few feet away from the building, you should be alright. Because sometimes when you're moving left and right to try and pull this off, it'll pretty much like grip right onto the building. And hopefully I won't pull that off now. But yeah, to do this, you pretty much just want to move left and right on the rail, because by doing this, you pretty much aren't triggering the collision to interact with the rail. But as you just saw, if I go too far, I'll kind of drop and it'll reset the collision detection. So yeah, there are some risks to pulling this off, so hate to say it, but you know, you need to have a lot of patience to try and, you know, pull this off. Fortunately, if you have the broken bond, you can pull this off a lot more easier, because unlike Rise of a Ninja, broken bond, you can pretty much jump when interacting with rails. So yeah, fortunately, if you jump on the right angle, as soon as you land on the rails, sometimes it doesn't actually re-trigger the rail to the point that you'll pretty much land right on it. And yeah, by doing that, you can pull this glitch off a lot more easier. It's interesting how this whole concept works, and sometimes it actually can be useful for speedrunning. But if you want to just try and get to the stadium, then you pretty much do what I'm doing right now. Just, you know, move left and right, don't go too far, and you need to get pretty much where that building is all the way over there. So it's not too far, but yeah, as long as you try not to rush it, then you should be able to pull it off. Because so far, during speedruns, I've managed to use this for ramen delivery, because on my very first run of ramen deliveries, I had the save where I pretty much skipped having Jiraiya use the 5-pronged seal to release the seal that Orochimaru put on me. And because of that, that pretty much restricts my chakra for the entire game if you skip this part of the game. I can unlock chakra concentration level 3, but I won't be able to use level 3. I can unlock it, but I can't actually trigger it because the chakra is, you know, pretty much sealed. So, you know, a bit of trial and error. But if you use this same glitch, you can actually jump off of the rail and reach a 3rd level building, which allows you to interact with these kind of buildings that I'm on. By doing that, I can complete the ramen delivery even with the 5-pronged seal save. So ooh, I almost went too far. Sometimes I've noticed too, if you go to pretty much where I was just a few seconds ago, you kind of point downwards and it seems like you're fine, but if you leave it for too long, sometimes Naruto does actually drop and the rail collision will trigger. So I'm not really sure what triggers that, but I don't know, maybe it's the camera. I've had a feeling that the camera has collision. It's hard to explain, but the camera does kind of, like, see now, it's still kind of moving a bit. I feel like it does kind of move Naruto a little bit. That's just a theory, I could be completely wrong, but other than that, I have no idea why Naruto would be, like, you know, you just idle, then all of a sudden, like 5 seconds later, you just drop off the rail. Anyway, we're not doing too bad so far. Moving the camera like this definitely does help. I mean, I haven't actually tried just, you know, using the analog stick to move Naruto left and right to do it. I feel like I can do it with ease, just moving the camera. Just seems to get the right angles. Now, one other risk is that you don't want to go too straight because you get more distance covered, but there is a chance that you might re-trigger that rail collision, which will, you'll have to start that all over again. So okay, so that's not too bad so far. I think I probably could do it. I might do one more. Actually, no, one more, then after that I'll do it. Yeah, you pretty much want to be right before this building to my left to pull this off. There we go. So yeah, pretty much you want to land for this, which is luckily got collision. Then from here, do another sprint hop, and then voila, we're here. Fortunately, or unfortunately, we can't actually land inside the arena, which I guess is kind of fortunate since, you know, if you could get down there, you probably wouldn't be able to get out. But that's alright, at least we're, you know, technically here. Now this part is kind of where it gets interesting, because sometimes I fail at this, but you want to do another sprint hop, and hopefully, if you're not holding down the analog, you'll land here, and, you know, that'll be that. Sometimes you can go so far that you actually go too far and you go right back out of the arena, so there's a bit of a risk to doing that hop there too, so you can easily spawn back here, so don't worry. Oddly enough, this actually does not have collision. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but this part does. Then again, I guess you're not meant to be here, so... I still find it hard to believe that this was originally meant to be the area where Orochimaru fights the Third. I mean, it was supposed to be above where they were sitting down. You know, you can actually see that they have actually modeled the seats there, so... No, the attention to detail is really... it's amazing. For an area that you wouldn't even be visiting, because they've already got a separate exam stadium for the fights itself, and that's why this might look different if you're comparing the battle arena from when you fight Neji to this area now. It's a completely different stage model. I think it's also a little smaller too, but still, it's cool that you can free roam around it if you can, you know, make it this far. Now this part over here doesn't actually have collision, so yeah, don't try walking on that unless you do want to fall. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think eventually I would like to find a way to get onto the top part of the academy, where that arch area is, because, I don't know, it's another piece of geometry that I've always wanted to get onto, and thus far I haven't actually been able to do that without mods. But I guess, luckily with the assistance of modding, I have been able to learn like how hard it's going to be, and it's going to be interesting because it doesn't seem like there's collision at all where that arch area is, but going to the map, pretty much where that green patch is over there, there is collision. So if I can get in there, at least that's something at the least, you know, a bit of an accomplishment there, but I don't know, we'll see. But anyway, that's all for now.